Okay, time for a bit of an update or a bit of a post-mortem on the garage shelf units. So I did them last weekend. I've had a bit of a week to think about it and think about some things I might do differently or change. But overall, I'm fairly happy with how that went. It seemed to go pretty smoothly. The units themselves were quite easy to set up and to assemble. A few little things, a few little mistakes that I made whilst I was doing it, which I'll cover off now, but nothing too serious. So firstly, that first unit probably should have got it in the right place to start with and should have just thought about that wing mirror poking out. My mistake. Annoyingly, what I've done is I've put a load of wood over the top of them and rested that in place. So moving it is going to be difficult, but I've got to do it. Otherwise, I'm never going to get that car out. So that's a job to be done. Also, I was going through the instructions for it again later on, and there was a recommendation that the shelving units, because they're made of, they call it MDF, I would call it more hardboard, a very thick hardboard. They recommend if it's in a damp environment, you should seal it with some kind of varnish or sealant. My garage isn't perfectly dry. It's not soaking wet. It's not leaking or anything like that, but it does get a bit damp in there. So I'll probably do that, take the shelves out one by one and just give them a coat of sealant around them just to protect them and make them last a little bit longer. The other thing I did notice is that on one of the shelves on the very first unit, the very top shelf, one of the brackets isn't quite in place. So I'm going to have to take that one out and just hammer that back in. That should be a 30-second job, so that's not too much of a problem. Other than that, everything else went really smoothly, really pleased with how it went. And so those units are already making an improvement to my life. There's been a few times I've had to nip into the garage and get a few bits, and they're there easy for me to grab on the shelves right by the door. So yeah, really pleased with how that's going to work out for me. What I have thought of though is there's a couple of improvements I want to make, a couple of extra things I want to do, and basically my brain was thinking about how I can stack a few or store a few long tall things next to the units. One of them, for example, is a spirit level. Now I've got the spirit level has a hole in the side of it just for a screw mounting, so you can put it on a wall. So I was thinking maybe I could try and connect that to the shelving units. There's lots of the mounting points available for me to put things in and hang things from. So that will be something I'll probably want to do. And I've had a few thoughts about how I could do that. I did wonder about just getting a bolt and a nut and just tightening that around on the pieces, and that can fit through the hole on the spirit level. I did wonder about seeing if I can buy anything that would maybe hook into those things. I have actually found some really hard plastic, really quite colourful kids coat pegs that you can buy. They are quite expensive, so I don't really want to go down that route, but that is an option of a decent coat peg. However, when I was in Wix the other day, I managed to find these. They are made by Rothley. They cost me about £2 each. And basically I should be able to hook that through the eyelet, and then I can hook whatever I want to onto that, maybe even a rubbish bag or something along those lines. So I've got a couple of those. If I need any more, I can go and get them £2-3 each, something like that. So yeah, quite looking forward to using those. The other thing I need to do is also connect the shelving units together just to provide a bit of extra security. What I was thinking, that there are screw holes in the uprights, and what I was thinking is that basically I can put a bolt through those, but there is a gap between the units, only 5 mil, something like that. And that's just because of the feet that go onto the bottom. There's a plastic cap that goes onto the feet, and that just projects out a couple of mil on either side. So I wasn't quite sure how that would work. I might have to use like a window packer to space that out and bolt through that just to stop the two sides clamping together of a screw. However, whilst I was kind of looking into the instructions for it and found that note about the sealing, I found that there were these brackets that you can buy like this. They would slot into the uprights. They come in a pack of 4. I think from the Big Dog website, they're about £3.50 each for a pack of 4. So you've got one at the bottom, one at the top, and then the same front and back as well. And that will help you clamp 2 of those together. Now, word of warning on this. So £3.50 each, something like that. I bought 2 packs because I've got 3 shelving units. I need 2 to combine the 3 together. So 2 packs, £7. That's fine. I can cope with that. However, did get a bit stung for the delivery. So the delivery was about another £7, £7.50 on top of that. To be fair, it came couriered the next day in a small little packet, and they are relatively heavy once you get 8 of them together. So I can kind of understand it, but it just felt a little bit expensive. But they're going to be easier for me to fit. They're going to work better. I can rework them in the future if I need to, and they're designed precisely for the job to hold them at the right width. So £7 for 8 of these didn't seem too bad. Bit stung on the delivery, but it's probably less money than my time would be worth going to the shops buying the bolts. You can never buy 8 bolts. You can only ever buy a packet of 100. Once you factor that in, maybe this worked out not so much more expensive than that approach. But yeah, we'll see how we get on with these. The other thing to talk about, the mallet, the surprise mallet that arrived in the box. I was quite pleased when this came out in the first box, and slightly disappointed that it didn't appear in the second 2 boxes. Now, my brain had already sort of allocated where the spare 2 were going to go to. Maybe one for my son, maybe one for my dad, something like that. But they are pretty good. It's a decent rubber mallet, fairly sturdy rubber on the top, and a fairly decent metal bar through that metal. I think it's metal inside there, coated in plastic with a decent handle on it. In any case, I only got it in the one, and my brain was thinking, well, how did that work? How did I end up with it in the first box? Because if I'd ended up in the third box, I would have been quite annoyed. But also, so I think that was pure chance. It ended up in the first box, so I was delighted with that. But also, do they have separate stock keeping units and things like that for one with a mallet, one without? I was surprised if they did. However, I did spot this morning as I was putting the boxes out to the bins for recycling, there is this label on the box that says mallet. So who knows, maybe they do have multiple stock units for ones with mallets and ones without. Any case, not too much of a problem. I've got the mallet that I want, and yeah, it's a pretty useful tool, so I'm going to keep using that one in the future. So the only other thing probably that went wrong is I got some of the shelf heights a little bit wrong. I completely overestimated the height of a bucket. So one of the first shelves, I need to lower that down. That's probably the first shelf I put in. And also on the very first unit, one of the top shelves, I noticed the other day, one of the little pins just isn't quite in the right place. So I'm just going to have to knock that out slightly and put that back down again, and it should be sorted. So yeah, a few little jobs to do. Like I say, move the shelves, move them into the right position, seal the pieces of wood. But other than that, job seems to have gone really well. I'm really pleased with what I've got. It's already made quite an improvement to my life as well. A few times this week I've had to go into the garage, pick a few things up, and I've been able to put them in the right place, really close to the door as well. So it's really worked well for me so far. So really pleased to see what that's going to look like in the future when I get it fully stocked up. And hopefully it should make my life a little bit easier in the center space, and it might start looking a bit more like a workshop in the future. So stick with me and see where we end up with. There's still a bit more organisation to do in the garage, still a shelf to go in, still some other bits I need to tidy up and get sorted, but we're looking pretty good so far. A few more things to get taken out there as well. So once that's all gone, I'm going to be really dead happy with that space. So it's looking good so far. So yeah, if you like what I'm doing, please click like, click subscribe. In the comments, tell me what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, any other things you suggest that I could be doing better, and let's have a conversation about making things better. Right, so I will see you on the next video.